Welcome to the Scene Snob interviews with your host, McManhattan. Please like and subscribe to our channel and follow us at the Scene Snob.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Scene Snob interviews, and I am here today by filmmaker extraordinaire, Mr. Dan Ast. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We are absolutely excited to have you here to talk about your new show. Well, it's season 2. It's not a new show, but it's season 2, out now on Prime, of L.A. Macabre. You can check out seasons 1 and 2. Go do it right after this interview. Oh, no, I went to Full Sail in Orlando.
Love it. Right on. Yeah, a lot of good people at Full Sail.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Yeah, it was a fun time. It was very intense, but a really good time.
Oh, that's awesome.
How was Florida State's program?
It's a really, like, it's very specific in that it's geared specifically toward film and narrative storytelling. So there's not there aren't any other broadcast arts involved, like live television competencies or anything, journalism, like, not at all associated. But the film program itself, is, so far as I know, still one of, like, the top in the country. It's up there, and they only take like 30 people a year for the BFA program, and then I think 30 people a year for the MFA program. And so it's fairly selective, and it's kind of like it's like 2.5 years of movie camp. It kind of sounds like the way you described Full Sail, where it's just like it's a blast and it's intense, and you do it for a very specific length of time. And so, yeah, it was like 2.5 years of just making movies with, like, a very tight-knit group of classmates. And it was kind of a conservatory. So everybody cycled through all of the positions. You couldn't just be like, well, I'm going to be a director and that's all I'm going to do. They're going to make you hold the boom and gaff and, write and direct and edit. And you're going to have to do everything. And so it's a really great way to have a well-rounded understanding of, like, storytelling in film and, like, how a film set works and all that. That's kind of, if I were to pitch it, which I think I just did, that would be my pitch for FSU's film school.
I got to tell you, it's funny because when I went to Full Sail at the time, they had just changed their name to Full Sail University.
Oh, wow.
So we all, when we were graduating, made a kind of a joke. We were like FSU, the other one. Is what we call it.
Yeah, that makes sense. That tracks. That's funny.
That's what I loved about Full Sail too. And I don't think you get that. Having talked to a lot of filmmakers and who went to different film schools, I'm glad to hear that Florida State's doing that, because getting that well-rounded way of doing filmmaking for film students to come in and kind of learn the whole process.
Yeah.
And we did that in Full Sail as well. And I feel like going in, everybody's a director.
Yeah, right.
But coming out, you find your true calling. And it may still be directing, but, I went in and I was, of course, I'm going to be the next big director. Everybody says that when they walk in. And I was like, I didn't want to do anything but producing.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. And production management especially, I really liked the budgeting side of it. And I never would have thought that.
Yeah, I had that same, like, I still want to direct. I love writing, directing, and editing, but I definitely had to have that shift in perspective of that there are so many ways to express yourself and to really thrive as a filmmaker. And being a filmmaker doesn't mean that you're a director specifically, So same as you, like, went in with this notion of, like, well, if you're going to film school, you're going to be a director, right? And then you get into it and you realize that there's so much more to it, and there's so many ways to kind of find the thing that you love about it. There's so much available to you. So it's a really great notion to kind of be dispelled of in that way,
Yeah. When did you graduate, if you want me asking?
I graduated the film school in the winter of 2005.
Oh,
and,
nice.
And then I was there for one extra semester to finish up some liberal arts that I owed, and then I moved to Los Angeles in the summer of 2006.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I started in 2006 and graduated in 2008. Literally, like 6 months later, moved to Los Angeles. So, yeah.
Right on. What part of LA were you in?
I lived right in North Hollywood on Burbank Boulevard.
I live in North Hollywood on Well, I obviously don't want to go too specific, but like
Oh,
I
of
live
course.
in like the NoHo Arts District near the park
Right.
and everything. So like,
Over by Lancashire area and stuff like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
totally. Like that's right in there.
Yeah, I was over on because we were more in Valley Village, and when you're going down Burbank Boulevard, we're right like 2 blocks down from the 105. So it was easy. But yeah, I mean, I love telling old LA stories because like I try to explain it to people, and it's just like it's a strange land, but it's when you're there, you're there. Like it's your people, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think this isn't even me trying to pivot, but I do think that LA Macabre was kind of born out of my weird love of this city and how it is really bizarre and it has a really strange history and a lot of history for such a young city, by kind of modern standards. The city's only been what it is for like the last 100 years or so, and
Yeah.
so that there's so much history, cultural and otherwise, kind of packed into 1 century here that is, I think, kind of ignored or kind of like the city kind of gets written off as this vapid place for the entertainment types, and nobody's talking about its like deep aerospace history or what that had to do with the space program and the aeronautics and jet propulsion. And I think that's fascinating. I just think that Los Angeles in general is a fascinating city that doesn't get enough credit. But it's a very flawed city, and I think that kind of the dirt under the fingernails is kind of part of the fun too. It's just a weird place. So.
Well, I think that's to go into your show, LA Macabre. The one thing I really enjoyed about it is it shows like LA has everything you've just explained and more. There's almost a darkness to LA if you're there. Like I mean, any city has it, but with LA, it seems almost like a stylized darkness. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Oh, totally. I mean, like it kind of like that's where film noir. Kind of, it's not exclusive to Los Angeles, but it makes sense that film noir stories would kind of thrive there, because I think one of the things that makes LA so dark in its actual history and in its film history is it's where innocence and idealism go to die.
That's such a great way to put it, especially with LA being sort of a hub of nobody's from there. You just go there.
I mean, yeah, it certainly feels that way. I mean, statistically, there's a ton of people from here, but you're right in that, like, the microcosm, particularly of the entertainment industry, it feels like everybody's from somewhere else, and that they're all coming and giving it a try and seeing if it's a fit. And it's not a very welcoming city in that regard. I think that the people are actually nicer and better people than they're given credit for a lot of the time, but the city itself does not make it easy for you to kind of be here and pursue your dreams, and it's always been that way. And so it is like a place that people come and they kind of get crushed on the wheel of particularly the entertainment industry. I mean, you don't see a lot of like, I was going out to El Segundo to really like take my, shot at developing rockets, and it didn't work out, but like even though the entertainment industry is actually a very small microcosm in Los Angeles, it's the one that's kind of front and center in the way we present ourselves to the rest of the world. And that story is very much about how we chew people up and spit them out when they came here with, all of their dreams in their suitcase, and there's just an inherent darkness and a perversion of hope that happens there, both in how we talk about the city and how people experience it sometimes, so I think that has a lot to do with the darkness of it.
Well, wondering too, because your projects, Vampires, Claire, Vampires, which is another TV show you did, then you have Claire, and then one specifically I want to talk about is LA Macabre, but they're very much based in mysterious natures. There's a mystery to them. And now I'm wondering, is that like a genre, a subgenre that you've been really interested in touching down on, or did you kind of find it maybe in this?
I think the first thing I have to do is clarify that the show Vampires was actually created by Austin Lee Smoke, who's a great friend of mine from film school. It's her show. Although much like LA Macabre, there was like a 3 or a 4 person crew making it most of the time. It's very tight knit, very collaborative, and all hands were on deck. But that's actually Austin's show, and she is the director of photography on Claire and LA Macabre. So we worked together quite a bit. And Vampires was fascinating. And I was definitely, in terms of supporting her in that project, very much drawn to the kind of, underground aspect of that subculture. So you're correct there. I just want to make sure that Austin gets credit for her show,
Oh, I understand. And yeah, it was more from the directorial standpoint of when you're going into like this mystery, like how do you see it in your mind as you kind of go through?
Oh wow, I don't know how to answer that. Let me see. I'll start by saying that I've always kind of made thrillers, horror movies, mysteries, kind of always circled that quite a bit. Even Claire, which is not a horror movie or a literal ghost story, is kind of a figurative ghost story with a mystery to it. So I'm always kind of drawn to things that can have that mystery, that darkness to them. But I think it's a way of processing things that I found interesting, a little unsettling, a little scary. With LA Macabre, I read Helter Skelter in a dark room one night, and I was just like, this is terrifying. I don't want to make a Charles Manson movie. Helter Skelter's been adapted multiple times. There are plenty of Charles Manson movies and stories and books to be had. But there were ideas in that book that were very simple and upsetting. And the one that really struck me was the notion of creepy crawling. Like this is long before they murdered anyone. They would break into somebody's house, move stuff around, like turn their couch sideways or something, move their wallet and put it somewhere where they couldn't have gone otherwise, just so that when people woke up in the morning, they would know I was in your house and I let you live. Like it was like a psychological terror tactic, and it was so simple. And I wanted to kind of co-opt the things in the book that scared me without trying to tell a true story, without trying to talk about Manson directly. I just wanted to borrow the ideas that seem so universally creepy that anybody could have done this. Any cult could have utilized this. So I think it starts with me kind of processing things that I was creeped out by or that bothered me or etc. That's probably where a lot of it starts. But then I just really believe in telling a good story with a lot of twists and turns and hopefully some characters that you care about. And I think that if you can kind of get people invested in the characters, then they're far more willing to go along for the ride and the twists and the turns that go with it. So that's probably what I'm focusing on, trying to tell a story like that.
And now with LA Macabre, like this is your second season, and I think you're about 40 episodes. Is it 40 episodes that you're?
Well, kind of. So sorry, like everything is like a caveat answer, and I apologize.
No, please.
So season 1 was designed as a transmedia web series. The idea was that the story would play out in various pieces of media that you could collect in different places. So there was the main characters' YouTube accounts, and they would upload the thing that was happening to them every week, and as they start interviewing Callie, weird things start happening to them, So it was meant to be, for the audience. You discover this YouTube page, and there are these 3 characters, Ryan, Jamie, and Colin, and they're interviewing this girl, this 4th character, who was in this defunct cult. And things are getting really weird because they keep uploading the things that happen to them every week, and they're getting creepy crawled, and people are sending strange videos to their account. So you could find the antagonistic account that was sending them footage of them sleeping at night. You could find other pieces of the story other places. And that came out to 30-something pieces of content. And just, it came out to like maybe 2 hours worth of story, or footage, or however you want to look at it. You don't need every piece of content to understand it. So you've got 30 something pieces of content, but you have 11 primary 10-minute-ish episodes that are the spine of your story that you could watch those and you don't need the rest. And so that's kind of what season 1 is. And that's why it looks like we have 40 something episodes. But season 1 is like 11 episodes, main episodes, and the rest is ancillary supporting content and vlogs and behind the scenes that's pretending to be behind the scenes, but it's still from the characters' points of view and, that sort of thing. Season 2 is 12 episodes. And when we made season 2, we realized that the story had expanded so much that it was not possible to justify the characters continuing to pick up a camera and film everything that was happening to them. The events were too extreme. The logic for picking up the camera was too flimsy. And there were too many storylines. There were too many characters going in different directions. So you couldn't consolidate them with one camera person anymore. So season 2 just became a single camera drama and 30-minute episodes instead of 10-minute episodes. No. So season 1's like been re-edited into 3 30-minute episodes, and that's everything you need. There isn't anything I think is really missing from those. That is the distilled YouTube page consolidated into 90 to 100 minutes of storytelling.
Okay, cool. Because that's what I watched. I watched the first season because I watched it this weekend. I didn't get into the second season yet, which I'm very much looking forward to. It's intense. I'll tell you that. It's very interesting. I was actually texting with a friend of mine after watching it. I was like, "Yeah, you watch this show, man. It's on Prime. Go check it out."
Thank you. Yeah, we love it. We'll take the endorsements. Thank you.
Absolutely, definitely. Yeah, it's so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, not at all.
I'm really interested from like getting into being a writer on primarily all the episodes, right?
Yes. Ryan Bartley wrote the Jamie vlogs, which are on YouTube, and they run parallel to season 1. They're her character vlogging about how she feels about the events of season 1. And every once in a while, something that's in an episode happens in the background behind her, and so like they kind of stitch together. But she wrote those herself. We collaborated on how we wanted that to work out for her character. And then she did a lot of, she outlined them and improv them and, would make sure that they didn't contradict anything. But she wrote those. And then I'd say the more traditional episodes, so what you saw in season 1 and what you'll see in season 2 are traditionally written. And I wrote those.
Oh, very cool. But I got to ask, because now I was going into it thinking you were around 40 episodes. It's good to know that season 2's 12 episodes, and I can finish it tonight if I wanted to.
Oh, no, if you want to stay up for 6 hours, it's still 12 30-minute episodes. Season 2 is massive compared to season 1.
I am all about binging. And
please do. I love that.
And I will definitely give the feedback because I'm enjoying it so far, and I want to get into season 2. And your trailer looks awesome for season 2.
Oh, cool! I'm glad to hear it.
We're gonna have that up during the week this week. We're gonna air this next Sunday. Every Sunday, our interviews show airs, but we will be posting up the. I want to get people into the show because it's very cool.
Oh, thank you.
And I love that though. I'm a big fan of the. I like horror. If you look at my walls next to me or whatever, I have horror all over the place. But I really love those thriller, mysterious, especially in LA. LA, just like we were talking about the mystique of LA, and there's something about LA that's just kind of like creepy. And you tackle it beautifully, and your cinematography is really well done.
Oh, I'm so glad. Austin is an incredible cinematographer. I really can't wait for you to see, you've seen a bit in the trailer, but I can't wait for you to see what she does with season 2. Because she switched gears. She went from found footage to a single camera drama, and she fluidly nails it. I don't think that these seasons feel that disconnected, and what's interesting is she's playing, Austin does not consider herself an actor, but she's playing Jamie visually a lot of the time as the camera person. And Ryan Bartley is usually standing behind her or next to her, kind of moving in tandem with her, moving in sync with her. It's kind of like a ballet. And Ryan Bartley, even though she's a voice actor, she is giving her performance in the room to the other actors every day, even if she never ended up on camera that day. So she was a very giving, very dedicated actor. The whole cast is incredible. But I just feel like that's worth kind of noting, is that Ryan and Austin kind of have to give a performance together to play Jamie, which I think is interesting.
That's really cool how you say that too. Like, just kind of moving in tandem with each other to play the body, essentially the body and the voice.
Yeah, exactly.
The body and the mind, really. So coming into season 2, how much time was there between season 1 and season 2?
Well, in terms of release, there were several years. In terms of kind of diving right in, we released the finale of season 1 in January of 2015, and we launched a Kickstarter for season 2 in like April or May. And I spent all of 2015 writing season 2 because it just took that long. It was 300 pages, and I didn't expect it to be 300 pages. That's already hilarious to everyone. They were just like, we really thought season 2 would be about the same length as season 1, and I just kept going. So season 2 is like 3 times the length, and just the scope of it's ridiculous. Any 10 minutes of season 2 is bigger than any 10 minutes of season, than the biggest 10 minutes of season 1. But yeah, we took a year. I took a year to write season 2 in 2015. We did a Kickstarter and we raised some money. We thought it was a lot of money, but then I wrote a 300-page script. And then we started filming season 2 in March 2016. Okay. And we filmed from March 2016 through to October 2017. It took about 18 months, I think an aggregate 65 days of shooting. And when you're shooting that way, it really is a weekend warrior project. Like if we did it right, we fooled you and we made it look like we had a lot more money than we had and a lot more resources than we had. But we're still working with about the same size crew, maybe 1 or 2 more people than we had on season 1. And it takes a long time when you can't really, it's not that people weren't being paid at all, but you can't really pay them to prioritize you if they are getting work that pays better, that's going to pay their rent, or if they have opportunities, a commercial or an audition or whatever. And we want to be completely supportive of their ability to build their careers while they're essentially doing us the favor of being in our show. So sometimes scheduling would take a long time. We would film something and then it would take weeks to find a moment where that 6 people could be on screen together again, or those 2 people. And as you get closer to the end and you wrap people out, you start running out of alternate scenes or alternate locations you can film at. And so it takes longer because it's like, well, unless so-and-so is available, or unless this location shows up and we can film there and we can afford to film there, we're stuck. So 65 days spread out over about 18 months. And then, another year of post. I was the primary editor on season 2. I had a co-editor on episode 7, Art O'Leary, a very talented guy, and a co-editor on episode 8, my friend Kareem Hanawi. They grabbed those episodes and did first cuts for me and helped me, focus on other things. But the post team was really myself, Mike Meehan doing the score, Andy Wilkinson doing the opening sequence of both season 1 and season 2. And I'm really excited for you to see how it changes in season 2, because these guys just knocked it out of the park. And then David Shatnoff, my producer that we worked together on Claire and Vampires and a bunch of other stuff. He's on set running sound, producing, helping build sets, helping feed the crew, and then he's sound mixing the episodes when I'm done editing them, because he also is a re-recording mixer at home. So it really comes down to a number of people I can count on one hand, kind of doing post and production most of the time. And they say time, money, quality, pick two. We picked time because we didn't have a lot of money, and it took a while. So we finished it. We premiered it to the cast and crew at the end of 2018, and we kind of finished all the cleanup and post in 2019. And here it is, 2020, and we finally have it out for the world. So it's a 5-year journey to get season 2 out there.
Well, congratulations, and it's so awesome to see that it's out there and distributed, and that I was able to watch it on Prime, which is great, and that's a far reach,
It's cool, and I'm really excited. I'm excited to talk to you about it. I'm really excited that it's out there where people can see it. I want people to see what I've been doing for the last several years, but I also want them to see what the cast and the crew have been doing, because they put so much time and energy into this project. And a lot of indie projects, I know you know this in production, a lot of indie projects die in post, or they die in production and they never get all the way there. And, that was never going to happen to us. We weren't going to let it happen. There was too much at stake, so to speak. But also, if you take too long, you don't want to squander people's opportunities. So, we're glad that they held in there with us. We're thankful to the Kickstarter supporters, because we had 911 Kickstarter backers helping us get across the finish line. And then 3 additional small-scale investors who came in to kind of help us get through the very end of it. And they were incredible people as well. So, I don't know, when you've got 1,000 people supporting something like that, you want to make sure that it gets out there where they can see it, and that they feel it was worth it when it's over,
Well, we talked about Helter Skelter was reading Helter Skelter was kind of a big inspiration for you. Was there anything else that you went to as a filmmaker? Of course, you're a film fan. Was there any films or directors that you really focused in on to help you?
Yeah, I love like, let's call it the greatest hits of horror, right? I love Halloween. I have a group of friends where we would meet up in South Pasadena, and we wander around the Halloween locations almost weekly for a time. And I would say Halloween and some of like the shadowy figures in the background and the snooping around I think you can kind of see a little bit of that in season 1. Mm-hmm. Season 2, I think the movie Duel had a lot to do with it. And I think it became easier for me to identify that the further away I got from it. But we've definitely got like a creepy old truck, we've definitely got like our desert highways. And I actually I looked up where Duel had been filmed, up like Santa Clarita, Canyon Country, on the 14, kind of heading toward Palmdale. And I started just driving those roads and finding those locations, and they kind of used them for inspiration, because I was still trying to figure out the writing whenever I wouldn't say whenever I got stuck, but like whenever I was trying to kind of, free my brain up a little bit, I would go for these drives and listen to certain music or soundtracks, and I would drive around Canyon Country, Santa Clarita, out in the desert, beyond, and I would drive a lot of the Duel locations and the Duel roads to do that. And we actually did film on some of those roads in season 2 a little bit. So I'd say Duel has a lot of DNA in there, a little bit of No Country for Old Men. Yeah, not at all claiming that level of quality, by the way, but definitely like inspired by that kind of really ominous, desert vibe. Because I think that the Manson family has it, and they have it over LA, and they have it over the desert a little bit, but we kind of wanted to go a little further with that.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm anxious for season 2. Season 1, definitely, I see that feel of, lurking shadows in the background. I really enjoyed that. It's very spooky, and that's more my wheelhouse in terms of horror. But Duel, You got me excited when you said Duel. I'm like,
Oh, cool.
I can't wait because that's an excellent movie.
It's so good and it's so underappreciated.
Really,
it's only underappreciated in so much as it's not as prevalent as maybe it deserves to be. Because I don't know anybody who's seen Duel and is like,
oh no, yeah,
And
it came out at such a time where like you were getting all of these car movies, like the Smokey and the Bandits and things like that. That one may have been a little bit later, but like all these like car fast moving movies that were more stylistic. And, they're trying to make it look beautiful. And then this one is just rugged and completely in your face, horrifying in a way.
Yeah, very little score a lot of the time, too. And even though, like, Mike Meehan, the composer on L.A. Macabre, is an incredible composer, his score seeps into season 2 kind of gradually. Like, it's there, but it really – it kind of grows as the season grows. And I would say that one of the things I was trying to learn how to do a little bit, and I'm still trying to learn how to do, is that kind of confidence you see with parts of Duel and with No Country for Old Men, where you don't have a score a lot of the time. And the tension just really comes from the environment and the framing and the performances. And,
Duel is a great way to go about it. You got me excited for season 2. Actually, before we do that, I didn't intro the show, so at the end we're going to do an outro.
Cool.
And then if you can wait a few seconds, we'll do an intro, and then I can edit it all together. If that
totally.
Works. All right. At least we have a break where I can say that too, so you don't sign off on me. Okay. We're going to kind of go into more like the fun, talking about our not just inspirations, but like the stuff you really enjoy doing.
Okay.
Watching and stuff like that, if that's cool with you.
Yeah.
I have some fun questions for you.
All right.
We'll go back in. Give it 3 seconds. So with season 2, you're coming in, and Duel is a great, as I said earlier, that's a very original movie to kind of come in on and find inspiration in. And like you said, it's not something that people often, I think, seek out. Maybe if you're a Spielberg fan, you kind of go towards that. It's very King as well. So, like, it's one of those things that kind of shines for fans of them. But, yeah, horror fans, I think, really miss the mark on that. And they like so many things like Jeepers Creepers and stuff like that has that element.
Yeah, yeah.
They don't think about Duel, and that's like one of the originals.
Yeah, it's like the granddaddy of it. And I always thought, just as an aside, I always thought that Richard Matheson writing Duel was fascinating because it was about him writing, I guess he and a friend were driving back from a golf game or something, and they were driving on the 126, up near Magic Mountain in Valencia, heading out toward like Santa Paula or whatever. And they got tailgated by a giant truck that ran them off the road. And they didn't know why, it just, some dude randomly did that. And that's why he wrote it. It's a really good 20-page short story, but and it's not actually all that different because he wrote the screenplay as well. But I always thought that was interesting. And I thought that what was really interesting was this happened to him and his friend on the day of the Kennedy assassination.
Oh.
So, November 22nd, 1963, Richard Matheson and his buddy get run off the 126, up near Valencia. And that's where Duel came from.
Jesus, that's I've never read the short story. I'm gonna have to go back and check that out because I'd love to see it in print, kind of like what he did.
Oh, it's cool. Yeah,
originally. So, getting into real quick, like what's next for L.A. Macabre? Like, where are you going to take it next?
That's a good question. And I have to find a way to answer it without spoiling it for you, because I really want to hear your thoughts when you are done with it, and without spoiling it for people who have gotten further into season 2, because like there are different spoilers at different points, right? I would say that I always saw it as a 3-season arc. So when you get to the end of season 2, even if it feels finished, and hopefully it doesn't. There's a whole other 12 episodes I'd love to give you on about the same scale. I think that the last 5 episodes of season 2 in particular, 8 through 12, really kind of exemplify like the ambitions we had for the show all along, and we felt we had to gradually earn them, you know? And that's kind of where I would like season 3 to live, is in that space at that kind of broader, more epic scope of story. It is meant to be an ending in season 3. So I would like to kind of taper that off, but that is dependent really on just us finding support. We can't really afford to just keep doing it the way we've done season 1 and season 2. They're very expensive. They're very time consuming. People are really, they're really doing it for the passion of it. It's kind of a term that kind of gets thrown around in a derogatory way now, but it was very much a passion project, and people were definitely donating their time and their support, even by working for a lot less than they were worth, and you can't ask people to do that again for 2 years, to hope that in 2027, maybe we get season 3, So really for season 3, we need like a streaming service to want to like really be the one that does season 3 for us, or an investor. I would say it's not an expensive show. I think it's very doable, especially with the skill sets that we've developed as a team. But we still need more money than we had for season 2. We can't scrape it together. My favorite example is that when we realized that we were going to film someplace for 5 days, and we have to make sure we feed the cast and the crew 3 meals a day, and we don't have money for per diems, and there are no restaurants where we're at in this rural area. And even if there were, we can't do $30 a head for everybody to go to the diner. And we also can't stop in the middle of the day for a lunch break and go to a diner, because that's not a 1 hour or half an hour film set kind of thing. Like, you end up in a diner for 2 hours and you lose part of your day. And, so we made like 24 crock pot meals for people. Just stood in my kitchen for like 3 days straight, just destroying my back, and made and froze like 24 crock pot meals, and fortunately everybody seemed to really enjoy them, or at least that's what they told me.
That's awesome.
And that's how you do, I don't know, $5,000 or $6,000 worth of meals for $400. And that's the kind of production it had to be all the time. I'm happy to make more crock pot meals for season 3, but like, we really need to be able to pay the cast and the crew to come out and do it for 65 days straight, not a year and a half, and really just kind of knock it out. So that's the kind of support we need for season 3. There is a spin-off film that I've written that takes place parallel to season 1. Ooh. And it's very overtly horror. And it's I don't really want to put too much of it out there, other than to say that it's a feature film. It takes place parallel to season 1. You don't need it to understand the movie. You don't need L.A. Macabre to understand the movie, and you don't need the movie to understand L.A. Macabre, but there are definitely crossover Easter eggs. And I would like to make that. I was getting pretty close to putting that into production at the beginning of this year. And that's not such an easy thing to pick up and just run with again. Like, when the pandemic's done, we can't just go make the movie. There's a lot of things that would have to fall back into place. And so we're hoping, similarly to season 3, that an investor or a production company or a streaming channel would be interested in kind of building out this universe, because I would like to do a season 3. There are at least a few spin-off movies you could make. There's very likely a prequel series you could do, centered around a character you're going to meet in season 2. So there's a lot that can be done with it that I would love to do, but it's all kind of tentative right now. It's all kind of like, let's see what happens with season 2 and if anybody responds to it. And we'd love to finish the story, and if we don't find the support we need, all the secrets die with me.
Oh no! Don't do that to me. All right, we're gonna. Hey, listen.
No pressure on anyone, of course.
Listen, SeedSnobs.com is all about making sure we find you some investors now, so I can know what happens. And the movie sounds really interesting. Like to go a full horror, and with season 1 nonetheless. So like you're going back.
Yeah.
I would really. Would that be found footage too, or
no? Actually, it would go single camera horror, and it would probably get pretty epic. It's closer to the scale of like the end of season 2 in terms of the locations and what's happening, and but it's while it is a thriller, it's probably got more in common with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre than it does with like Silence of the Lambs. So. Yeah,
I like that. I kind of want to go in that route because I can see the horror fan in you, and I want to talk about some of your favorites. Like what are some that I know you said that like you like the bigger ones, but like what are ones that really stick out to you that like you're like I gotta watch this right now.
Obviously, Duel is in there. That's the reason that it kind of sticks with me the way that it does. I love Duel. Just ticking off the favorites. The Thing, Halloween. You got to go through like Carpenter's, greatest hits. Yeah.
We just did that here because we got 12 inches of snow where I am.
Oh wow!
Every first snow, The Thing goes in.
Oh, well done. I
just showed it to my 8-year-old for the first time.
I'll say something really controversial here. I love John Carpenter. I don't love all the same John Carpenter as a lot of John Carpenter fans, and that seems to bug them. But so for me, my top 3 Carpenter movies, okay? And I'm not declaring these the best. I'm not saying anybody has to agree with me. I just want to put that out there now because this really seems to rankle people. But Halloween and The Thing, are like 2 of my top 3. And then the third one would be Christine, which I think is deeply underrated.
That's a great movie.
And maybe I've got a thing for like evil cars. That's very possible. But I just think that Christine is a much better movie than both Stephen King or John Carpenter are given credit for in their filmographies. And I think it's kind of a shame. Like Christine's not a perfect movie, but I do think it's great. And it's kind of one of the last times that even though Dean Cundey wasn't the cinematographer anymore, it was Donald Morgan. It's one of the last times that Carpenter seems to really be leaning into that Panaglide, very elegant, kind of slow creeping style that he does, that he kind of starts to figure out in Halloween and is definitely doing in The Thing and The Fog. And, there's an elegance to how it's shot. And I like after that, he really starts having a different kind of fun with the movies he's making. And so he starts working with Kibbe, and he works with Donald Morgan again on some other stuff and Cundey on some other stuff, but it's not as it doesn't have the same vibe for me.
No, I get that.
So for me, it's Halloween, The Thing, and Christine, but Christine's probably the one I put on the most besides Halloween.
You should check out Someone's Watching Me. That was the TV movie he made like 6 months before he made Halloween.
Oh, I'm writing this down.
And I think it's Lauren Hutton in the movie. And she just plays a woman who lives in like a high-rise building in LA. And so, she's being stalked in the building across from her by somebody.
Oh, wow.
And actually it kind of fits because he is creepy crawling her. He's coming in our house and moving stuff around, calling her and things like that. And it's so well done in how they do it. Like I said, Carpenter, you can tell after watching this movie, because if you go on IMDb, it says it came out after, and it did. But he made it. I think he made it in like June of that year of 76 or 77 or 77 rather. And then he made Halloween 2 weeks or 2 months later.
Wow.
So, and he said that Someone's Watching Me actually was the movie that helped him learn pacing to do a quick movie.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, because TV movies, you're always like moving, and it's a very intense movie for a TV movie. Like, remember, it's network at the time, so
I mean, it's fascinating. Like with TV movies, you seem to really, have to learn to thrive under your restrictions. And that is definitely something that like indie filmmakers also have to learn how to do. And then I guess that's probably even crazier when you're trying to do indie television. So I'm definitely very inspired by when I see something like that, like Someone's Watching Me or Duel, again, a TV movie where they shot it in 10 days. And because I guess Spielberg did such a good job, with what he was getting in that 10 days, they gave him 2 more days to finish because he wasn't technically finished, but they were like, no, you're doing good, kid. We want you to finish. So I love that kind of learning to get the best thing possible with what you have available right then and there, where you kind of step back and you don't rely on, well, my vision is this. And it's like, yeah, you're a director. You have a vision and that's great. But I appreciate when they develop their toolbox in such a way that they can achieve their vision quickly and efficiently with less. And if they run into a curveball, they find another way to get something comparable. They don't let it derail everything that they do. So I have a lot of respect for that kind of filmmaking. And I try to keep that in mind when I'm doing what I'm doing.
That's great to hear too, because it is, you have to be adaptable. If you're not adaptable and you're not willing to pivot, you're going to, and you, like you said, a lot of indie filmmakers gets to post and it's not even, or you find you missed something along the way because you weren't willing to adapt at the time and like, oh, I'll go back and get it. And then it just sits there for years and years.
Yeah.
And it's sad. It really is. And you never want to see that happen to any indie filmmaker.
And it makes you wonder how many good films are sitting there unfinished. Yeah. Because there are a lot of very talented people who don't necessarily have the means to get through post or to finish those last few days of shooting, and it makes you wonder, how many really solid movies are just sitting right there, on a hard drive.
And I really think it kind of shoots yourself in the foot when you do that, because now you don't know the limits of your creativity. Having limited creativity can be boundless sometimes, and you can figure things out. And going forward, it's like, oh, okay, I can figure my way out of this box anytime,
Yeah, I'm a huge proponent of like making lemonade. Whenever something goes sideways on set, like what's the best you can do with what you have available right now. And you don't always get exactly what you want, but you can often get something that works just as well. And of course, film is all about the happy accidents where it turns out even better than you expected because you couldn't do that crane shot, or you couldn't do that car chase or whatever, yeah.
Well, we talked about, the movies that inspired you as a filmmaker, but, you're also doing television. Were there certain shows that were inspirations to you kind of going in, or, even growing up that kind of reached, your creative process?
Let me see. I wish I had really interesting answers for this. I don't think my answers are that interesting. I think Breaking Bad is a fantastic example of pacing and character and how you can really squeeze a lot out of a very simple premise. And by just building out the world and building out the characters and finding a way to balance tension and stakes and drama with quirkiness and humor, and it's okay to kind of let those into your universe. So I like that. That said, I love Breaking Bad. I think I'm more of a Better Call Saul fan. They've really won me over, and I really love Better Call Saul. Another one would be The Wire, honestly. And I know that's a very traditional, what's your favorite TV show? It's always in there somewhere as one of the greats. And I would say that there has been plenty of incredible television since The Wire, that it doesn't have to be somebody's top 5 anymore. Like I understand that there are a lot of people who aren't as into it, or it's kind of cliche to claim it. But when I saw it, right around the time the final season was just coming off the air was when somebody lent me all the DVDs, and it was like 2008, 2009. And that show just kicked my ass, and so I've watched it several times. I don't think it's perfect anymore, and I don't love everything about it anymore, but I think I'll never stop feeling its influence.
Oh yeah.
And I'm a big fan of that. I will say, as far as like twisty turny movies go, though, Memento was really big for me when I was in like high school, because that's around the time that came out, like right my last year of high school, first year of college. But my favorite Chris Nolan movie, and this is just one of my favorite movies, is The Prestige. Oh man, I think it's his best film. But that's a whole other like can of worms to get into. But as far as like learning about writing every time you watch it, like I've seen that movie a dozen times or more, and every time I watch it, I learn something new about writing. And so that's pretty incredible. And then Zodiac, I think, is just pretty much a perfect movie. As a true crime person, I love Zodiac. I think that's Fincher's best movie to date. So
I agree with actually everything you said. I agree with, and I mean, we got to get you back on the show now, but it will be more of a fun conversational type, because we could talk about The Prestige and why I agree with you wholeheartedly that it's his best movie, and why it didn't. I don't think a lot of people feel that way is because they do not understand it.
Yeah. There's so much going on. What I'll say I love about that movie, and the reason I bring it up is because I do think that this applies for L.A. Macabre in terms of what I kind of took from The Prestige and other movies that I thought did this sort of thing really well, is you watch it once and you get to the end and then you go, oh shit, I need to watch that again, because everything's going to mean something different the second time.
Mm-hmm.
So I really, if we did it right, you'll get to the end of season 2 and you'll go, oh shit, I have to watch that again, because things are going to mean something different. Even going back to season 1, conversations are going to play differently. So that's something that I think The Prestige does incredibly well. I also just really admire that everything you need to know about The Prestige, the entire visual metaphor of the story and the structure of the script and the story, is laid out for you in the first 2 minutes, with like not just the hats, although that's great, but with the description of how every magic part has three parts, and then they show you the bird trick.
Yep.
And it's everything you need to know about what's going to happen the rest of the movie is in that 3 minutes.
And he's so perfect for that. Nolan is. He'll let you know right off the bat, like, this is what I'm showing you. And you have to figure it out throughout. Like, what's he doing here?
It takes an incredible amount of confidence to do something as brazen as some of the scenes in The Prestige, where they just put some things right in front of you, and you kind of ignore it because he's preying upon your suspension of disbelief as an audience member. So he's aware that his movie is a magic trick, and that you as the audience are participating with that kind of separation of like, well, I'll allow it. I'll see where it goes, and he's so brazen about it. I love the scene where, Christian Bale is bringing, is it Rebecca Hall, back from a date, and he wants to come in and have tea. And she's like, maybe next time. And then she walks out of the room and he's inside making tea. And we don't stop and wonder why, other than just finding it really charming. It's right there. And so, that movie is just the audacity of it is what is so well handled. And so I try to learn from things like that. I hope that L.A. Macabre has like a smidgen of that kind of like, look, we put it right there. if you were paying attention, so we'll see.
Well, I am advocating for everybody to see, because I will tell you, I have enjoyed the first season so far. I cannot wait to dive into season 2. I'm glad to know that it's not, like 30 more episodes to watch, and it's only 12 more I got to check out. I am definitely pulling for a third, because I need to see how it ends, and I'm not letting you get away with not showing me. But I thank you so much for coming on the show today and talking about it. And I really appreciate our conversation. This is a fun one.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is a blast. I always start thinking I'm not going to have anything to talk about, but you just, I don't know. I got to give you a lot of credit for like finding places for it to go, because I can ramble, but it felt like it was always germane, So.
Well, I know. I mean, it's just about you got to be interested in who you're talking to, and you've put it. Before even meeting you, you've given me an interest in your show. So, and then doing the research and going from there. So, and it's just always a good time, especially talking to other filmmakers. Well, I'm not a filmmaker anymore, but it's a good time talking to filmmakers and learning their process, and especially. We shine a light on Duel tonight. And I think we walk, that's always an important thing, is like to shine a light on movies people maybe haven't seen.
Yeah.
And then that reach will grow. Like you said, people are going to be like, well, all right, I got to go check out Duel. I got to check out L.A. Macabre and, see what this is all about. And that's the important thing about all this is, support indie ventures. And, it's amazing. It's a breath of fresh air to hear from filmmakers out there. The Crockpot story, I understand what you're saying. And any other filmmaker, I've been there. I understand, like being on set and you just got to figure it out, especially behind set, like how you going to feed everybody and where it's going to come from and this, that, and the other thing. But those stories are the ones that are always going to stick with the crew in a heartwarming way.
Yeah. Letting it be. Like it's a family thing. It was it was movie camp again, So yeah, really, really incredible memories with all of those people, the cast and the crew. And we would love to do it again. We really would. I know that a lot of us are like, so when are we going back out to the desert and making more? And it's like, well
I just keep me along for the ride. I would love to have you back on. We have 11 shows on thescenesnobs.com. You're always welcome on any of them. Open invitation. We talk movies. We talk all the fun stuff. But I just want to say, L.A. Macabre is out now on Prime, seasons 1 and 2. Go check it out, everybody, now. Right now. Leave this interview and go. And, to my guest, Daniel Ass, thank you so much for being on today. This has been fantastic. I'm really looking forward to see more from you in the future. I'm going to go back. I have not seen Claire. I'm going to go back and make sure to check it out.
Oh, man.
I'm very excited.
Thank you.
Is there anything else right now you have going on that you want to promote or push?
Right now we're just excited to have season 2 out. I've been spending a lot of time kind of on the screenplay side of things, doing a lot more writing. And some of that is L.A. Macabre based, and some of that are just separate projects that we're hoping to find homes for or opportunities for. So it's been nice to just kind of sit back and watch season 2 roll out and hopefully find an audience and get a sense of, whether that's going to build to something that gives us a third season.
I can't wait. I really can. Again, everything. I can't wait to see what you bring to us on screen, and it's going to be fantastic. I know that.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for watching. Make sure you go check out our shows on thescenesnobs.com. This is our last interview of 2020, and it was a fun one. So it's the best part of 2020.
Yeah, just try and take 2020 out on the high notes.
Yes, absolutely. So again, thank you so much, everybody. And we will talk to you soon. Take care.